Hello, Facebook Parenting with Angel Eyes Facebook community. How are you? Good evening. Um, how's your day been? You know, I always start off with that. It's nice to hear how your day has been. So if you're in this chat with me, please just let me know. Just one word, describe your day. Mine has been slow but good. I've been a lot of reflective thinking as I prepare for this sessions. Believe you me, I get a lot out of these sessions too. As I prepared for this session, I knew that it's going to be a very long session, and we have such a short time, so I've decided to do it in two parts. I'm going to do part one will be just supporting babies up to primary school age, and then session two, which will be next Friday, will be supporting preteens up to teenagers. And just because of the length and the amount of information, and I'll be able to answer any questions. I'm just going to actually put on my mobile phone on, so that if there are any chats, I'll also be able to see that too. How did you like the post I put in of those two little babies? If you were a parent, what would your comments be? Did you see the smart way they got up after making that loud noise? They already knew what to do. They had better go back into their bed before anyone comes to see them. I thought that was such a funny thing, but it only goes to show that children at a very young age have that capacity to manage, understand and manage their behavior. So let's dig in. They're beginning to see the world around them, and those explore, I would say, explore the world around them. So it's quite normal for children to act out, really. It's not something that they're really doing that is bad, no. But what we are trying to do is that as parents, it's important that we coach our children. We help them to understand what they're feeling, help them to understand what they may be thinking, help them to understand how to go about it in a proper way. So it's a very normal part of life for them. So we're going to talk about, because of the length of it, I'm just going to introduce two tools for us as parents. So handling big emotions in a healthy way and in a mature way, the ability to be responsible for your own behavior requires a variety, a whole lot of skills. It requires one to have the ability to have impulse control, the ability to emotionally self-regulate, the ability to problem solve, the ability to delay gratification, the delay to negotiate, to communicate. So it just doesn't happen in one go. You can see that it takes time. It would have been something that you have actually been able to learn. So if you haven't developed it at this point in time, that means that you need the skill to deal with things like frustration, anxiety, anger. Those skills still need to be learned and developed within yourself. So being able to be responsible for your behavior is what's called self-regulation. Now, what is self-regulation? Self-regulation is the ability to understand and manage your emotions and behavior in accordance to the demands of the situation. And that's what you really want to try and teach your child at that moment. So it includes being able to resist the temptation to react in a very emotional way to an upsetting situation. It includes the ability to calm yourself down when you get upset, the ability to adjust to a change in expectations, to handle frustrations without an outburst. The ability is a set of skills that enables children, as they mature, to direct their own behavior towards a goal, despite the circumstances, despite their own feeling, or despite the unpredictability of the situation. Wow. Wow, isn't that it's a lot, isn't it, to ask of a child? Hence parents, and hence parents are like the coach, they're like the trainer. Because when you have self-regulation, then you're able to, be it it's a child or a teenager, you're able to be responsible for your behavior. You're able to get along with others and become independent. So, and some kids find it really hard to self-regulate, and it could be because of their personality, it could be because of their temperament, it could be because they find it hard to struggle, and as a result they find it hard to struggle more with boundaries. They struggle more with following rules, and they constantly trying to be defiant and to ignore instructions or talk their way out of things that for them really that aren't optional, so that you find that they're trying to always talk their way, because based on their personality and their temperament. And it could also be because of the environment. Do their children see a lot of outbursts of emotions from adults or their siblings when it comes to dealing with any particular situation? That in itself also affect the way that they're able to be responsible. And also, if you find that if parents are constantly jumping in to solve the problems or help them calm down, that will also affect their ability to self-regulate. And even when parents give in to tantrums or maybe accidentally reward delete, and as a result they look onto the parents for as the external self-regulator, and it then becomes a habit. So you can accidentally reward a tantrum, really. Let's giving an example now. Maybe if a child wants a lollipop or a sweet or something, and you've said no, but they're constantly whining and really whining, being very persistent. I want the lollipop now, I want the lollipop. And then you just give in and you give them the lollipop. You're accidentally rewarding a tantrum. Or if you start to shout or you start to plead as they keep on whining, oh, you're shouting or you're pleading, you're acting again. So you're giving them the attention that is needed, that they need, really. And so you're accidentally, again, rewarding the tantrum. And that can be done as parents too. So we've got to be mindful of that. So children start having that ability to self-regulate from as early as 12 months. And as the child gets older and more mature, they're able to self-regulate and calm down when something upsetting happens, with fewer tantrums. I mean, can you imagine when a baby, I'm sure you as parents or professionals, you've seen it, if a baby's crying a lot, they may try to soothe themselves down by sucking their thumb or their fingers, or some children begin to rock and they might bump their head. That's a negative way, but they haven't been taught, so they're just constantly rocking back and forth and hitting their head, trying to self-regulate the way that they are feeling inside. So it's a natural response to self-regulate, but it still has to be taught. So in this chat now, while you're here with me, can you just tell me what kind of behaviors do you wish your child would be responsible for? And I could then use them as my examples, because I've got a few examples, but it'd be nice to have your examples so that I can be more relevant in this topic. So if you put in the chat, and I'll just look down here, if you want to, what kind of behaviors do you wish your child would be responsible for? So comment there, and I'll be able to look at the comments. So how do we teach self-regulation? How do we teach our children to be responsible for their behavior? Teaching your child, be very mindful of your body language and your tone. Body language is telling more and what you're trying to convey. I mean, you are probably upset and your body language is saying what they're just reading is that mommy, daddy, or the whatever, whoever it is upset right now. They are not listening to what you're saying. So make sure that you're aware of your body language and your voice tone. They speak louder than words. And make sure that when you're doing it, it's in a calm way, and that there's no it's not emotional, it's not judgmental. So that's very, very important. And what you're trying to convey, what you're trying to teach your child, the three simple things is what went wrong, why, and then how can we fix it next time. These are the three things: what went wrong, why, and how can they fix it next time, just for next time. These are the three things we're trying to teach our child. So we want to help them to understand their emotions. Then we want them to be able to understand how to self-regulate. So an example. Let me just check if you've given me examples. Any examples in the comments section? I can't see any now. Okay, so I'm just going to give you my examples. So an example is if a sibling, let's just say two little children, toddlers, are playing with their toys, and one is older than the other, one is still a little bit of a baby, and the little younger one, while playing with the toy, he snatches the toy from the sibling, the older. Now, you as a parent or a professional, you come in, you walk in, you see the situation, you see that the older one has hit the child. Now, remember the three things we're trying to teach. So we're going to talk to this younger one now. We want to ask them what went wrong, why, and how can we fix it. So you're asking the child, okay, so what went wrong here? What happened? And he says, oh, snatched my truck. He snatched my truck. Okay. So what happened? I then hit him. Okay. Why? What was wrong? What were you feeling? What was happening there? Said, I was angry. You're helping that child to understand what they were feeling. What was it that was really going through their mind? Not only was it that they snatched the toy, but also he was getting angry as a result of that. So we're trying to enable that child to truly understand. You then validate those feelings. Okay, I know you would be angry. I would be angry if my toy was snatched. But then, what could we have done better? Give that child that opportunity to think about their behavior. Okay, when I'm angry, what can I do better? He could have asked. Let them come up with that option. If not, then you give them suggestions and let them come up with the one that they like best. Okay, instead of hitting, I could have asked an adult for help, or I could have used my words and asked and start saying, why did you smack your brother? Why did you smack your sibling? No, you shouldn't be smacking your sibling. Give the toy back to your sibling. Or, you just made that. You haven't taught your child anything. You haven't taught them how to be responsible for their behavior. But if you're doing those very three simple steps, why, what went wrong, why, and how can I fix it? So, and also, with communication, you have to make sure that it could also be that when you're given instructions, instead of a request, you're instructing them. They don't have the choice to say yes or no. So you're not giving them that option. So you're trying to be very clear as to what you're trying to tell your child when you're trying to instruct the child, basically. Let's just say you've asked the children to keep the kitchen tidy, and you find yourself, you walk into the kitchen, you still find it a mess. You ask them, but say, well, we've tidied it. Now, this is where clear instructions come in. So with the clear instructions, you have to say, no, when it comes to tidying the kitchen, this is what I'd like to see. It's different, can be different from your idea of tidy. So now they have a clear understanding of what you mean by tidy. Yeah? and you do it based on their age. No need asking for a tidy kitchen, and you know and you're giving instructions that are not at their age at that point in time. So you need toys put here. You're making your instructions very, very simple for that child. And so, and then, in fact, and sometimes, and really the best thing to do is, even as you're giving the instructions, let them come up with the ideas of what they think a tidy kitchen looks like, because then it's much more easier for them to comply with. They don't really feel like these are just ruling out of instructions that you're giving them. It can sometimes get very disheartening. So let them come up with the ideas, write it down, put it somewhere for everyone to see. This is what a tidy kitchen looks like. This is our ideas. And there's their ideas too. So they've come up with it, and it's clearly seen, visible for all to see. And they've made those decisions as to what we can do better next time. So brainstorm together, and when they have done it, to encourage it, there needs to be a lot of praise. We've done that before. Affirmations, because the praise and affirmations allows you to praise godly character. Where you're seeing these characters building up, you're able to add, this is basically what God says. So if that child that was beating his sibling because they took the toy away out of anger, now you're seeing that he's doing it in such a different way. When Saul was so angry, this is how Cain and Abel, this is what Cain did when he was angry. That makes the Bible even more real to them. They're able to understand it so much more better and take much more responsibility in a godly way, because they're hearing those stories and it's relevant to their lives. So that's very important. And sometimes daily routines is important when you're trying to teach your child to be responsible. A routine can help. A routine helps your child to get through repetitive daily tasks. And routines can be very helpful, especially with children that have additional needs. So have a routine. And also you might need visual cues to put along, maybe that is visible, to also help that child along the way. Yeah. So how to make sure that your instructions are effective. Make sure that when you're talking to younger ones, you could use their names to get their attention. Come down to their level. Again, be careful of your tone, your body language, and then ask your child to repeat the instructions back to you, just to make sure that there's clarity, that they have understood it. So for instance, if a child, you've always tried to tell your child, when you come in, don't leave your bags on the floor. Be positive. If you're telling a child, so if you're telling a child basically to be positive. So if you're saying, I don't want you to no running. That's negative in a way, because for some younger children, they're not hearing the word no. No is so abstract. Include instructions that are optional. So it's time to get dressed. Okay. What do you want, the red pants or the blue pants? Or it's time for bath now. You're gonna have either the bubbles or no bubbles. You're giving instructions that are that have only two options and nothing more. So when you're trying to maybe give instructions to them as to when it's bath time, all you're gonna have is either a bubble bath or no bubble bath. It enables them to pick the one that they want. There's no way that you're probably just going to tell you now, when it's time for bubble bath, this is how I want to see it. I want so many toys in the bath. I want us to, you have to probably need to, so that it's clear, maybe just give them two options to choose from when you're making that list for them to be responsible when it's time for bath time. So give them two, and be prepared to repeat yourself over and over again, because it's practice. So be prepared that you might have to repeat yourself before they get the picture. but hang on in there. And you'll find out that if you have, I'm going to go back into what happens if they're just not understanding it. There's some few more things we can do, and also use consequences if they're not getting it. From the age of 3, you can begin to use consequences for a behavior. So for instance, I've told you over and over again to tidy your toys, and you have not done that. So the consequences is that there'll be no painting, or you have to go to bed early. So there are consequences for their behavior, so that they're beginning to understand that they can't always have it their own way. They have to be a part of helping the family, being responsible for their behavior, and also when they're responsible, they're able to get the praise that they want and your own way. How do you deal with your emotions? How do you deal when it comes to self-regulating? Children are watching constantly, so you have to model the way you regulate your feelings, your thoughts, and your behavior in everyday situations. Let them understand. So let them understand the emotions you're feeling and how you've been able to self-regulate. For instance, if I'm trying to open up a jar of jam, and I'm really getting frustrated because it's really hard. They can see the frustration on my face. They can see the way I'm, You say, and then you tell yourself, you know what? I think I need to do something else to open up this jar of jam. And I might need to go in and get something else to help me and open up, take off the lid. So they've seen that frustrations, it's a normal part of life. But you've been able to self-regulate. You didn't go and bang it on the table. I can't get this thing open right now. No, calmly, you've gone in and thought of something else that you can do. Role model that for your child. Now, there are times when you're trying to teach this, you'll find out that your child is not cooperating. It might be that you're expecting that child to do more than they can manage or understand. They've not reached that developmental age stage yet. For instance, you've told your children, you know what, when it's in the morning time, I want you to get ready. You must be ready. You must be downstairs by 7:30, dressed and ready for us to leave the house. And you find out that there's always so much commotion. Everybody, you're still having to scream, shout. No one is taking responsibility for their behavior at this point in time. You're doing it constantly and constantly. You've done consequences for their behavior. They're still not getting. Work on just that part. Getting up at 6 a.m. Once they have mastered that, loads of praise, loads of affirmation. So it could be then it's too much. So let's just do the bath part. I want you to be bathed at so and so time. Still not getting that little part. Then break it down. What is happening? Remember the 3 questions we asked? Why? Then we asked, the 3 questions was what went wrong, why, and how can I fix it? That's where you're asking again. Just that little part there. What's going on here? What went wrong? Why are you not being able to have your bath? It could be that they have some challenges. It could be that they have some additional need, or they're not going to bed. So they're not going to bed early enough, so they're still waking up tired and groggy and crabby. There's still those little whys that are going on. Again, you have to break it down a little bit. So breaking it down, and it could be a good reason why your child isn't getting it. It could be because they're feeling unwell. It could be because they're scared or they're tired. And so asking an overtired child then, overtired and hungry child, let's just say the child is overtired and hungry, to go clean up his room probably isn't going to work, and you're still just gonna, the child isn't cooperating, and this could be for a good reason. So you might need to change the instructions a bit. You might just say, after dinner I want you to go and clean up your room, because maybe after dinner it will be much more easier for that child to follow those instructions. Also, it's maybe a phase where they're in a phase at this point in time where they're not refusing to cooperate at all, which is normal. Yes, remember, children are always testing boundaries, always looking for another way to walk out of it. So your child's behavior will change as they develop. But it's also important then that you keep on being consistent, firm, loving, and focused on the specific goal you're trying to get your child to cooperate with, especially when it comes to safety. And if a child has additional needs, it might be then you might have to involve whoever it is that child works with. It could be with a family or a professional, and tell them, basically, I've given my child these specific instructions to do. Please work along with me, because maybe they are teaching the child something else as to what you've been trying to implement with that child. So it's important that you guys work together to make sure that there's consistency, so that that child is able to follow along. And children, they just love attention, be it whether it's positive or negative. And so it's important not to give them that negative intention. We can do it unconsciously, because when you give them that negative attention, they understand now, this is how I can get it. So they're no longer responsible for their behavior. So be careful how we respond when we're not seeing what we want. Okay? And also, some behavior could be because of the time of day, like maybe it's bedtime, or it's during certain tasks like homework, or with certain people, or maybe you might notice that your child acts out in a particular way when they are at home as to when they're at school, or vice versa. These are little tiny indications for you. It could be that they're being abused. It could be that they're being bullied. It could be that there's a special need that hasn't been identified. So it's very important that you're aware of these things, so that you're not asking a child, no, do this, but there's a little indication, a warning sign that the child is trying to tell you. Because remember, every behavior is communication. So be very, very mindful as to why it is that this child isn't cooperating with you. Or like maybe if for a baby, for instance, you find out that the child is constantly crying during dinner time, just not cooperating, throwing the food everywhere. It could be that they're tired, sleepy at that point in time. So you might have to make dinner time much more earlier, so that they can behave, they can cooperate with you in their behavior. All right, so that's basically it. I hope you've learned a lot in terms of that. We'll be doing our next session next week,